A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on Sunday evening. Have you ever seen a cat sleeping sitting up? She does that all the time. Anyway, finally, just a day before the transfer window shuts, there is movement by West Ham with the news that most of us were kind of expecting, I think. Now, once it is confirmed that Evan Ferguson has passed his medical and barring any last minute intervention from any other club, by the time we kick off against Chelsea on Monday night, probably tomorrow afternoon, Monday afternoon, we will hear that Evan Ferguson is a West Ham player, or should I say, a West Ham player until at least the end of this season. Look, if you're new to this channel, or if you've watched the West Ham Voice before but yet to become a subscriber, please do subscribe to the channel. Costs nothing to do so, and all the content is free. And when the video is over, please do make sure you hit the like button before you leave. Now, apparently, there are some counterclaims that there is indeed an option to buy Evan Ferguson, but that doesn't commit either Brighton to sell him to us, and nor does it commit West Ham to buying him. And for all we know, at the end of this season, but Brighton could slap a 50, 60, 70 million pound price tag on the player, and West Ham may not be in a position to have that option to take up. But options are meaningless, to be quite honest with you. It's the obligation to buy is the one that commits us. Options could be anything. An option now might not be the option in the summer. So let's not get too hung up on whether we've got an option to buy the player or not. And let's look forward to what Evan Ferguson can do for West Ham between now and the end of the season. So how does this deal benefit Brighton, West Ham, and the player himself? Well, Brighton, as I've said, would like to have sold Ferguson in this window, or at least have had an obligation to buy. But given that he's been out injured for some time and only just returned from an ankle injury this weekend, not that many teams were really ready to take that risk of buying the player or committing to that obligation. As for West Ham, the last thing we want to do after the history of failed striker signings, even the most recent history of failed striker signings, we didn't want to commit to having to sign Ferguson. And imagine if he got injured or if he failed to demonstrate his ability at the club. And then if we had an obligation to buy him, I don't think many West Ham fans would have been that happy about it. A loan deal would not only give the player a chance to demonstrate that he's fully recovered from his injury, but it will also give him the opportunity to show his full potential at West Ham. Because let's face it, even if he doesn't start every game in this loan deal, he will certainly be given an awful lot of playing time, given our limited resources in the striker department. But then I hear the cries of, well, all we're doing is we're getting the player fit just for Brighton to have him back ready and raring to go next season, or to have him back so that they can sell him for a vast profit in the summer. Yeah, I guess that's a possibility. And I guess that's the risk we're going to have to take. But if it turns out that the loan deal has been successful and then then Brighton slap a big price tag on him, I guess that's just the risk we have to take. But I'm comfortable with that, given all the other players that we're being linked to as well. And I'll come to those in a moment. But what we need is the here and now. We need something for the here and now, because we need a player that can offer us something different, or actually offer us something up front, given the lack of strikers that we have at the club. And hopefully he can do a good job in order to help West Ham finish the season on a high. Let's not concern ourselves with what might or might not happen in the summer. West Ham will pay an undisclosed fee as well as his full salary of £30,000 a week. Now, my understanding is an undisclosed fee, a loan fee, is going to be in the region of £3 to £5 million. To be honest with you, with that and the £30,000 a week salary, this is a low-risk, affordable solution for our current striker situation. It's a no-brainer. With the fan base becoming more impatient for any sign of transfer business in this window, it should have been pretty obvious to us all that Graham Potter was waiting on news that Ferguson had indeed recovered from his ankle injury. And he was always going to be Potter's number one choice, wasn't he? And on Saturday, Ferguson was named on the bench for Brighton against Nottingham Forest, and he came on in the 73rd minute of their 7-0 defeat. And he proved that he actually is over his ankle injury, and now he's on his way to becoming match fit. Now, that was enough for Graham Potter to push for the loan deal to happen. So, more importantly, will Ferguson fit into the style of play at West Ham? Well, I'd like to think so. I'm pretty sure that the answer is a simple yes. Ferguson will know exactly what Potter wants from his strikers, a player who can press from the front, who's energetic, who will often drift out wide to support advancing wing-backs, who will be able to create space for central midfielders or those wing-backs to make direct runs into the box and into attacking areas. Potter is likely to continue using a 3-4-2-1 formation in which two attacking midfielders will support that lone striker. And Potter will have no shortage of attacking players who will be able to support Ferguson, with Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Emerson offering the wide play, as well as the likes of Kudus, Bowen, Paquetá supporting Ferguson up front. But many fans are now asking, well, who's going to drop out of this team to accommodate Ferguson, especially with Jared Bowen and Crescencio Somerville returning from injury? Well, I don't see it that way. It's not a question of who will drop out. It's more a point of fully utilising the squad available to Potter from either players at the start of the game or coming on from the bench. And I think, to be honest, that Ferguson is likely to feature much more from the bench than in the starting lineup. So he's going to get plenty of game time. He's going to get every opportunity to demonstrate what he's capable of doing. I think it's a good move. I think it's a move that's great for West Ham, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing how Ferguson is going to fit in. Now, the first game against Chelsea, he won't be eligible for. We won't have signed him in time for him to be able to play in that game. So I think the first game that we're likely to see Ferguson feature is the game against Brentford at the London Stadium on the 15th of February. So that's Ferguson almost done. Like I say, it's not done until that contract's signed, and it's also not done until we know that he's fully passed his medical. And what about some other transfer news? Well, for those of you who follow my channel regularly, you would have noticed that I haven't done a show for the past, 3 or 4 days? You see, we've gotten to the stage where so much transfer noise is spewed out by mainstream and social media that it's not only difficult to keep up with all the transfer rumors that are happening, but it's also difficult to determine what transfer rumors have any real substance to them and what stories are actual total garbage. And to be quite honest with you, most of them being the latter than the former. An awful lot of garbage out there. I got to the point about 3 or 4 days ago where I just had to switch off, and I dare say many West Ham fans have probably felt the same. Now, we can forget stories like, for example, Craig Dawson coming back to the club, or that we're going to sign Callum Wilson from Newcastle, or that we're going to sign a striker or a midfielder from a French club, a German club, an Italian club, or a Spanish club. The only other transfer story that's currently out there that has got any real substance to it is our link to young Celtic striker Daniel Cummings. Now, this 18-year-old player is having a decent season for Celtic, or should I be more accurate, is having a decent season for the Celtic under-21 squad. But he's got just 6 months to go on his current contract. And manager Brendan Rodgers is making it very clear that he wants the player to sign a new deal at the club. Rodgers showed just how much he wants the player to stay by giving him something like 11 minutes of the Champions League game against Aston Villa during last week. But this might not be enough for Cummings. It might be too little too late. The player is desperate to get more regular game time, which is partly why he's potentially pushing to leave Celtic for pastures new. Now, will he be afforded any game time at West Ham, or will he be just added to the under-21 squad? Well, West Ham want the player to come to the club and he will be afforded the opportunity to demonstrate that he indeed has the ability to break into the senior squad. Cummings can leave on a free at the end of this season, and West Ham will hope to persuade him that this is the club for his future development. However, it's understood that Celtic would actually take a £500,000 deal now for the player to leave during this window. And West Ham may well be tempted to pay that so that we can secure his signature now rather than run the risk of other clubs making an approach for him in the summer. The odds of West Ham signing the player, I'm told, are looking very good. And this is a deal that can certainly be done. And that's another reason why, if we don't if Ferguson proves to be great and we don't manage to sign him, it's a reason why I'm like, all right with us not getting Ferguson on a permanent, because we are looking at some really decent young alternatives, and Cummings is one of them. Another player that apparently we're being linked to is Eli Krupi Jr., coming from League Two club FC Lorient. But when I asked for clarification as to whether a deal was in the offing for this player, I was told that it probably wouldn't make much sense given that we're going for Ferguson and Cummings now. Now, all other stories about players coming to West Ham are said to be just mere speculation, and nothing is likely to happen in this transfer window. But what has been interesting over the past week or so is the age of the players and the caliber of the players that we're now being linked to. And I may put that down to the arrival of head of recruitment, Carl Macaulay. Macaulay has been in his post for just over a week. And but there is a change in direction of transfer rumours and start suddenly making their way to the fore. In addition to the usual suspects that we seem to be linked to in every transfer window, players like Jonathan David, Arthur Cabral, John Duran, and so on and so forth, we also get links to players who are coming to the end of their contracts and some coming to the end of their careers. I mentioned Craig Dawson and Callum Wilson, for example. But in the past week, all of a sudden, we're being linked to the likes of 22-year-old centre-back Coney De Winter, who moved from Juventus to Genoa just last summer, 18-year-old Krupi, who I've mentioned, from FC Lorient, and 22-year-old defensive midfielder Tyler Morton from Liverpool. And I think that in the summer, we will be seeing far more links to young players like that than ever before. And I think that is down to Carl Macaulay influence. And that will be most welcome, because it does get boring, doesn't it, when we keep being linked to players who are in their 30s and coming to the end of their careers. But for the here and now, we're about to welcome Evan Ferguson, and we're looking very likely to be welcoming 18-year-old Daniel Cummings as well. But what about players leaving? Well, there is rumour that if we get the right offers for them, then Luis Guilherme, Rodriguez, and Andy Irving are players that are available for transfer before this window shuts. But I don't think, to be quite honest with you, we're going to get the offers that we'd be looking for. That's it. Short and sweet. No stories about all these other players that we're linked to, because it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless to tell you that we're being linked to all these other players when there's no truth in those rumours in the first place. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. There will be no West Ham Weekly on Monday night because I'll be at the Chelsea game. But I don't know. Let's see what happens, what time I get home from that game. And I may come on really, really late after the transfer window shut. So look out for that. If not, I'll be back on Tuesday. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're new to the channel, as I said, or have yet to subscribe to the West Ham Voice, please do so. And if you don't do that, then at least please do hit the like button, and I will see you all again very soon.